Hey everyone, welcome back to EasySpeakWorld with Maya and Ethan, your favorite place where you learn real English through real conversations. Okay, so I need to ask you something, and I want you to be totally honest. Have you ever, and I mean ever, sat in a job interview, heard a question, and just gone completely blank? Like your brain just left the building? No, seriously. I'm talking about that horrible moment where someone asks you something you know the answer to, but suddenly your mouth just stops working.
Yeah, Maya, I think that's called being human.
Right? And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is when they ask something like, "So, tell me about yourself." And you're sitting there thinking, I have been myself for my entire life. I should know this. But somehow, nothing.
The irony is real. It's one of the most open questions you could ever get, and it somehow becomes the hardest one.
Exactly, because there's too much to say, and you don't know where to start, and in that silence, which feels like 100 years, you can literally see the interviewer making notes.
Okay, but here's what I find interesting. That panic, it doesn't really come from not knowing the answer. It comes from not knowing how to say it, especially in English if it's not your first language.
Oh, that's such a good point, because the fear isn't, I don't know who I am. The fear is, I don't know if my English is good enough to explain who I am.
And that's exactly what we're tackling today.
Yes. So today, and I'm so excited about this one, we are doing a full job interview episode. And as always, I've got Ethan here with me, and together we're going to walk you through the most common interview questions, the exact phrases that make you sound confident and professional, and how to actually think through your answers in English.
And the goal isn't to give you a script to memorize. It's to give you the tools so that you can sound natural, not robotic.
Because interviewers can tell, they always can tell.
They really can.
But before we get into all of that, if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe to the channel because we do this every week. Real conversations, real English, real situations. And if you've been through a nerve-wracking job interview before, drop it in the comments. Tell us what question got you. We want to know.
Yeah, and don't be shy. We've all been there.
Okay, Ethan, let's set the scene. Imagine someone who has been studying English for a couple of years. They can hold a conversation, they can understand TV shows, podcasts, all of that. But the moment they walk into a formal interview, everything tightens up. Why does that happen?
Because the stakes are different. When you're watching a show, you can pause it, you can rewatch, nobody's judging you. But in an interview, every word feels permanent.
That's such a good way to put it. Every word feels permanent.
And there's also the formality shift. Everyday English and professional English, they're not the same. The words are different, the rhythm is different, even the pausing is different.
Wait, the pausing?
Yeah, in everyday conversation, a pause is fine. It's natural. But in an interview, even a 2-second pause can feel enormous to the person experiencing it. And that panic makes everything worse.
So we need to teach people not just the words, but also the rhythm and the confidence behind those words.
Exactly, because confidence in an interview isn't about being arrogant, it's about sounding prepared.
Ooh, I like that. Let's actually write that down somewhere. Confidence in an interview isn't about being arrogant, it's about sounding prepared.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the big one, the classic, the question that has destroyed careers before they even started.
Tell me about yourself.
Shudders dramatically. That one.
Yes, that one.
So why is this question so hard? Because it seems so easy, right?
Right, it seems like a warm-up, like, oh, this is the easy one before the real questions, but it's actually one of the most important questions in the whole interview.
Because it's setting the tone.
Exactly. The interviewer is watching how you handle an open question, how you organize your thoughts, how you present yourself. It's not just about what you say, it's about how confidently you navigate it.
So what should someone actually say? Let's break it down.
Okay, think of your answer in 3 parts: where you've been, where you are, and where you're going.
Oh, I love that. Past, present, future.
Simple structure, but it works every time. So, for example, let's say someone is applying for a marketing role. They could say something like, I've been working in digital marketing for about 3 years now. I started out managing social media for a small startup, and over time I moved into content strategy and campaign planning. Currently, I'm working at a mid-sized agency where I lead a team of 4. I'm looking for a new challenge now, specifically in a company where I can work more closely with data analytics, which is something I've really been developing.
Okay, that sounds so natural and clean. You got the past, 3 years, started with social media, the present, working at an agency, leading a team, and the future, looking for a new challenge, specifically mentioning the role.
And notice it's not a life story, it's a professional highlight reel.
That's a great phrase, professional highlight reel. Say that again.
A professional highlight reel. Highlights are the best moments, so you're showing only the moments that matter for this job.
And that's key, right? You tailor it. You don't give the same answer for every job.
Right. If you're applying for a teaching position, your highlight reel looks different than if you're applying for a tech job.
Okay, so listeners, I want you to try this. Pause this episode right now, just for a second, and think, what are your 3 parts? Where have you been professionally? Where are you now? And where do you want to go? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just think about it.
And we'll come back to more phrases you can use to structure that answer a little later.
All right, next question. And this one, I feel like this one has a trap hidden inside it.
Which one?
What is your greatest weakness?
Ah, yes, the trap question.
Right? Because on one hand, you don't want to say something that actually makes you look bad. But on the other hand, if you say something like, my greatest weakness is that I work too hard, the interviewer is going to look at you like this, blank stare.
Yes, that answer is so overused it has become a joke.
It really has. So what do you actually say?
The key is to be honest but strategic. You want to share a real weakness because they can tell when you're being fake, but then show that you're aware of it and actively working on it.
So it becomes a growth story.
Exactly. You flip it from here's my flaw to here's my self-awareness and my drive to improve.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Someone could say, I used to struggle with delegating tasks. I'm the kind of person who likes to make sure things are done right, so I'd often just take on too much myself. But I've been really working on that. I've been practicing trusting my team more, setting clear expectations, and stepping back. It's made me a much better team player and, honestly, a less stressed person, too.
Okay, that is so good because you hear it and you think, okay, this person is self-aware. They're not just listing a flaw, they're showing they understand why it's a problem and what they're doing about it.
And there's actually a word for that kind of awareness. It's called self-reflection, and employers love it.
Self-reflection, the ability to look at yourself honestly and think about what you need to improve.
Right. And in English, when you want to show self-reflection in an interview, some great phrases are, I've come to realize that, or looking back, I can see that, or something I've been actively working on is.
Write those down, everyone. Those phrases make you sound mature and thoughtful, not defensive, not fake, just real. Can we talk about something that I think a lot of people completely mishandle?
Yeah, what's that?
The moment when they ask about salary, like, what are your salary expectations? Because I have seen people just either freeze completely or blurt out a number that's either way too low or way too high and then feel immediate regret.
Salary conversations in English are nuanced.
Very nuanced. What's the move?
Okay, so there are a few approaches. One is to redirect, especially early in the process. You could say, I'm still learning about the full scope of the role, so I'd love to understand more before committing to a number. That said, I know the market range for this position is around X to Y, and I'd expect to be in that range.
Ooh, that's smooth. You're not dodging it. You're being reasonable.
And you're showing you've done your research, which is a really good sign.
So the key phrase there is, I'd love to understand more before committing to a number. That buys you time without sounding evasive.
And the word evasive, remember that one. It means avoiding something on purpose, being deliberately unclear. And you don't want to come across as evasive. You want to come across as thoughtful.
Thoughtful, not evasive. Good distinction. Okay, here's one that I think trips people up because it requires them to talk about the future in English, and future tense can get complicated.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yes, that one, because sometimes the honest answer is, I have no idea, but you can't say that.
Well, you can say it carefully.
Really?
There's actually something endearing about intellectual honesty if you frame it right. You could say, honestly, the future is hard to predict exactly, but what I can say is that I want to be growing. I want to be in a role where I've developed expertise, where I'm contributing in a meaningful way, and ideally where I've taken on more responsibility. This company, from what I know about it, seems like the kind of place where that kind of growth is possible.
Okay, wait, that last part. This company seems like the kind of place where that kind of growth is possible. That's doing something really clever.
What is it doing?
It's making the interviewer feel like their company is the answer to your future goals. You're not just talking about yourself, you're tying your future to them. That's smart.
Exactly, and that's something really good to practice, connecting your answers back to the company. Every time you can do that, you remind the interviewer that you're not just looking for any job, you're interested in this job.
That's such a pro move. Okay, we've been talking a lot about the content of answers, but I want to spend a moment on the language itself, because sometimes, even if you know what you want to say, the English just doesn't come out the way you want it to.
Right, and I think one of the biggest issues is filler words.
Oh, yes, the the like, the you know.
Every language has them, and in small doses, they're completely normal. Even native speakers use them. But in an interview, if every sentence starts with it can affect how confident you sound.
So what can people do?
Honestly, the best replacement for a filler word is a brief, intentional pause. Just stop, breathe, then speak.
That's harder than it sounds.
It really is, because silence feels scary, but interviewers actually respect a pause. It shows you're thinking.
I read something once, and I think this is so true, that the people who rush to fill every silence are often more uncomfortable than the listeners. The listener doesn't mind the pause as much as the speaker does.
That's a really important insight, and it applies so much to language learners specifically, because the impulse is to fill the gap before you've sorted out what you want to say, and that's when mistakes happen.
So the advice is think first, then speak.
And that's actually a great habit in general, not just interviews.
Okay, I want to do a little mini mock interview. Are you game?
Sure, you're interviewing me?
I'm going to be the interviewer, you're going to be the candidate, and then we'll discuss what worked and what could be better.
All right, let's do it.
Clears her throat, puts on her professional voice. Thank you for coming in today. So tell me, why do you want to work here?
As candidate. That's a great question. I've been following this company for a while now. I really respect the work you've been doing in sustainable product design. When I saw this position open up, it felt like a genuine alignment between where I want to go professionally and what this company stands for. I've always wanted to work somewhere where the mission actually means something, and here it does.
Back to normal voice. Okay, see that? Let's break it down. First thing, he said, that's a great question. Now, some people say this is overused.
Yeah, it can feel a bit automatic. Better alternatives might be just a brief pause and then diving in, or starting with what drew me to this company was, which gets right to the point.
Right. Then he mentioned something specific, sustainable product design. That's showing he actually knows the company.
And that's crucial. You should always research the company before the interview. Know their mission, their recent projects, even something in the news about them.
Because saying, I've heard great things about your company is very different from, I read about your expansion in Southeast Asia, and I think that's really exciting.
One sounds generic, one sounds prepared.
And the word he used, alignment. Let's pause on that for a second. Alignment means two things are pointing in the same direction. So when you say, I see an alignment between my goals and your company, you're saying we're going the same way. We're a fit.
It's a great word for interviews.
Write it down, alignment. I see a strong alignment between my experience and what you're looking for. We promised earlier we'd come back to useful phrases, so let's do a whole little phrase roundup. Ethan, hit me with some.
Okay. For showing enthusiasm, I'm really passionate about. What excites me most about this role is I've always been drawn to.
For talking about your experience, throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to. One project I'm particularly proud of is I've had hands-on experience with.
For handling tricky questions. That's something I've thought about a lot. To be honest with you, looking back, what I've learned is.
For asking questions at the end, because yes, you should ask questions. Could you tell me more about the team I'd be working with? What does success look like in this role after the first 90 days? Is there anything about my background that gives you pause? That's a brave one.
That last one is bold, but it can really impress an interviewer because you're showing confidence and openness.
Exactly. And note that phrase, gives you pause. It means makes you hesitate or reconsider. So you're asking, is there anything that makes you unsure about me? It's direct, but it's professional. Okay, let's talk about one more scenario. And this one is for anyone who has a gap in their work history, because a lot of people go through periods where they weren't working and they panic about how to explain it.
And the panic is understandable because it feels like you're being put on trial.
But you're not, and there's actually a great way to handle it.
The key is to own the narrative. Don't apologize for the gap. Instead, explain what you did during that time. And if possible, show what you learned.
So, for example, if someone took a year off for family reasons, they could say, I took some time away from full-time work to care for a family member. During that time, I also used the opportunity to take an online course in project management and work on a couple of freelance projects. I feel like I came back with a fresh perspective and some genuinely useful new skills.
See how that works? The gap isn't hidden, it's acknowledged. But then immediately the narrative shifts to growth.
And I came back with a fresh perspective. That's powerful. It suggests that the break actually helped you.
And owning the narrative, let's explain that. Narrative is the story you tell. And when you own it, you're in control of it. You're not letting the interviewer fill in the blank with their assumptions. You're giving them the story yourself.
Own your narrative. Love that. Life advice, actually.
Yeah, way beyond interviews.
Let's talk about the end of the interview because I think people underestimate how important that part is.
The closing?
Yeah, because a lot of people, they get through the whole interview, they're so relieved it's almost over, and then the interviewer says, do you have any questions for us? And the candidate says, nope, think you covered everything.
And that is not ideal.
It's really not, because that's one of the last impressions you leave.
The questions you ask say a lot about how seriously you take the role. If you ask nothing, it can seem like you're not genuinely curious, or worse, like you just want any job.
So what should you ask?
A few good ones. What are the biggest challenges facing the team right now? How would you describe the culture here? What's the next step in the process?
And that last one is actually really practical because it sets up follow-up. You know when to expect to hear back, and it shows you're organized.
And there's a phrase I love for closing out an interview. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed learning more about the role and the company. I'm very interested, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Clean, warm, professional. It says, I liked this conversation. I want this job. I'm waiting.
And the key word there, interested. Not desperate, not nervous, just clearly and calmly interested.
Confident, not desperate. Write that down. Okay, I want to zoom out for a second and talk about something that's a little softer, but honestly really important. And that's how you handle nerves in English specifically.
Oh, this is good, because it's different for language learners.
Right, because when you're nervous and you're speaking in a second language, your brain is doing twice the work. You're trying to manage your anxiety and translate your thoughts at the same time.
And one thing I really believe is slow down. People almost always speed up when they're nervous.
It's true. Your mouth starts running faster than your brain.
And in English especially, clarity matters more than speed. An interviewer would much rather hear you speak slowly and clearly than quickly and jumbled.
And actually, speaking more slowly gives you more time to think, which reduces the mistakes, which reduces the anxiety. It's a whole loop.
And there's a phrase I like to use in situations like this, collect your thoughts, as in to organize your ideas before you speak. So if someone asks you a complicated question, it's completely okay to say, let me just collect my thoughts for a moment.
That sounds so natural. Not, give me a second, but let me collect my thoughts. It signals the same pause, but in a composed way.
Composed, that's the word. Composed means calm and in control. And that's the energy you want to project in an interview, even if inside you're freaking out.
Ha! Even if inside you're a complete disaster.
Yes. Outside, composed. Inside, whatever it needs to be.
Can we do one more role play? Because I feel like this is so useful.
Yeah, sure. What question?
The one people dread almost as much as tell me about yourself. Ready?
Hit me.
Interviewer voice. Can you tell me about a time when you faced a conflict at work and how you handled it?
Candidate voice. Sure. There was a situation a couple of years ago where I was working on a project with a colleague and we had very different ideas about the direction we should take. She wanted to go with a more traditional approach, and I felt strongly that we needed something more creative. And at first, honestly, the tension was uncomfortable. We weren't communicating well. But then I realized that if we just kept avoiding the disagreement, we weren't going to move forward. So I suggested we have a proper sit-down conversation where we both laid out our reasoning without interrupting each other. And once we actually listened, like really listened, we found that her approach and mine weren't as incompatible as we thought. We ended up combining elements of both, and the project actually went really well.
Okay, that is textbook brilliant. Let's break it down.
So the structure there is called STAR. Situation, task, action, result.
Situation, there was a conflict with a colleague. Task, we needed to resolve it and move forward. Action, I suggested a structured conversation. Result, we found common ground and the project succeeded.
And that framework is incredibly useful because interviewers love specific stories. Not, I'm good at conflict resolution, but here's a specific time and here's what I actually did.
And notice the emotional honesty in the answer. The tension was uncomfortable. He didn't pretend it was fine. He said it was hard. That's relatable.
And then the resolution was realistic. Not, I convinced her she was right, but we found a way that combined both ideas.
Collaboration, not domination. Interviewers love that. Ethan, we're getting close to the end of the episode. Any final big piece of advice you want to leave people with?
Yeah. I think it's this. An interview is a conversation, not an exam. And I know it feels like an exam. There's pressure, there's judgment. Someone is deciding something about your future. But the best interviews I've ever heard about from both sides of the table happen when both people are genuinely talking. When the candidate is curious, when they ask good questions, when they laugh a little, when it feels human.
And the way to get there is preparation. Because when you're prepared, you're not panicking. And when you're not panicking, your real personality can come through.
Exactly. Prepare so you can be present.
Ooh, I love that. Prepare so you can be present. Not performing, not resigning, actually there in the room.
And present in English means to be fully in the moment, to be paying attention, not in your head, not in the future, just right there.
Okay, that's beautiful. I'm going to use that in my real life.
Good, me too.
All right, before we officially close, let's do a super quick recap of today's big takeaways. 1. Structure your tell me about yourself in 3 parts: past, present, future.
2. When asked about your weakness, show self-awareness and growth, not a flaw, a lesson.
3. Use phrases like, I'd love to understand more before committing to a number for salary questions.
4. Connect your answers back to the company, always.
5. Replace filler words with intentional pauses. Think first, then speak.
6. Own your narrative, especially if you have a career gap. Don't apologize, explain.
7. Always ask questions at the end of the interview.
And 8. Prepare so you can be present.
That's our whole episode in 8 lines, but obviously you got so much more than that in the conversation, the phrases, the examples, the role plays. And hey, here's your comment question for this week. Tell us, what is the one interview question that you find the hardest? Is it tell me about yourself? Is it the weakness question? Is it salary? We really want to know because your answers help us make more episodes like this.
And if this episode helped you, share it with someone who has an interview coming up. It could genuinely make a difference for them.
Sharing is caring, as they say.
As they say.
And if you want to keep learning with us, subscribe. We put out new episodes every week. Real English, real conversations, real situations.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Take care of yourselves, stay curious, and good luck out there. You've got this. Seriously, you've got this. Bye, everyone.